Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. I'm going to try to knock off another composition that I've had in mind, but I just haven't gotten around to, and that's using one of the Mystic Hidden House right here. And I've always imagined this one being used kind of in a nighttime situation. And I don't know, a lot of these designs are based on or I wouldn't say they're based on, but they're inspired by a lot of woodblock prints, okay? And I thought I would do it kind of in that style or in that appearance, but modernized with the use of the printable holographic vinyl sticker paper. This one happens to be the starry one. And I'm going to try to mass produce them here because I need to come up with a few compositions here to send out with orders. All right, so let's see. This is going to be my mountain range up here, and I'm going to have a moon rising from the background. So let's see if we can kind of just crank some of these out. Ideally, I'd like to have these compositions take about 15 minutes or so each. And I think that's about right for the vinyl sticker papers. If you're doing like quarter page ones, I mean, it can take longer. You can incorporate a lot more different types of techniques into there if you want to. If you want to apply some things like some, crystals or something like that to give yourself a little bit of a kind of a three-dimensional bling, so to speak. That would be pretty cool. All right, so my moon's going to be roughly, I don't know, it's like a 2/3 of the way over or so. Kind of the rule of thirds type of thing. And I thought I'd have the moon kind of rising from behind a mountain range, a distant mountain range. So we'll do that. This is the Brilliance White Pigment ink. Moonlight White. Which is kind of a neutral white. It's not a temperature white. It's like a stark white. And each one of these is going to come out slightly different, I'm sure. But when you're kind of doing it in a kind of an assembly line process, they come out pretty similar. Okay, getting my bearings here. All right, so I'm going to want to have some white blocking out where this background's going to be. And I'm going to have some like mist in the distance rising up, okay? So I'm going to add this down like so. And I'm really not going to be too mindful at all about my application of pigment ink when it comes to smoothness, and it's going to be pretty rough, okay? And that's because it's hard not to be using this combination of media, because when I tap this onto the surface like this, I can get a little bit of it down and blend it out to an extent, but it is really drying on the surface very quickly, okay? This is a water-based pigment ink. It's not an oil-based one like most of them are. So it dries pretty fast on here. It grabs this, or the surface grabs it, whichever, and it dries really fast. It adheres and dries really fast, okay? So there's only so much kind of blending you can do with it. But that being said, it doesn't really have to be blended in nicely. And you'll see what I mean if you haven't seen this before. When we stamp our imagery over the top of it, the imagery kind of dominates the I don't know, the setting, okay? It's not going to be any kind of rougher, blotchy application of pigment ink that's visually apparent. And that lets us off the hook of having to apply anything kind of really carefully, I would say. Now, I'm going to have some of these stars showing through. The more you apply, the more opaque it becomes. I'm not super worried about opacity and some of those stars shining through my mountain range. Okay, I actually think it looks pretty cool like that. So yeah, it's going to go like this right here. Okay, so you kind of go a little bit above it and below it. A little bit above looks like some clouds, and below it looks like clouds rising up from the bottom, and that's the way the design has been rendered. It's with that kind of in mind. It's that whole look of this, type of genre of ink paintings, or your woodblock print type of thing, where you would see this type of setting. Let's see if I can get a little bit more coverage. So this twirl, it almost feels like I'm applying like a StazOn type of solvent ink on something. You know how that dries really fast? That's what this kind of feels like. It's because this printable vinyl, it's designed to take your water-based inkjet printer inks and to print on them, but also to dry reasonably fast. You don't want to run something through your printer and it just comes out kind of, soaking wet. So water-based media, it grabs it and it dries really fast. There might be some kind of component in the coating that they place on top of this printable vinyl that kind of expedites the drying process. I just ordered another re-inker for my white brilliance ink. I really need like a dozen of them. I use it on this paper, but I also use it on a lot of other surfaces. Just about every surface, actually. And I use it to represent mist, fog, I don't know, kind of haze around things like stars. All right, so there's going to be more applied down here, but let's just take it one step at a time. Let's see. A little bit too small. My blocks have tack and peel on it, so my bare rubber adheres to it in a temporary mounting purpose, and I just peel it off. This one's getting very non-tacky, so I'll just rinse it off under some running water, and it conditions the surface again to accept your stamps with a, zero problem. It just gets a little dusty over time. My stamps are sitting here like this. They collect a little dust, and I put them on there, and that dust adheres to this. Okay, I'm just going to stamp this out in black. All right, so we have our mountains like that. So again, see that? That white pigment ink was applied on there, pretty blotchy, but it doesn't even matter. All right. I could see some scenario where you just do mountains and a moon up there under a sky. So if you move this all down and you had just, sky felt like that. Yeah, I think that would look kind of interesting. Maybe with some sort of focal point down below or flying against that moon. Like something like birds or something like that would look kind of cool. Okay, so let's go back with our white again and let's get our bearings here. Okay, so this is going to be right down here, about like so, I would say. And I'm going to have this snowy field right here. It's just some texturing like that. That's going to be really fantastic for our colored pencils. Okay, let's see. Let me get my bearings here. So it's going to be like this. Okay, so basically right here to here is going to be kind of filled in with a lot of the white, okay? Out here is going to represent some water, I think, or it could be a lake. Could be seawater or something like that. Maybe I'll put some, while I'm doing this, I'll put a little bit right over the top of the bottom part of some of my mountains so that the bottom of the mountains might have kind of a little bit of a lighter kind of gray look to it. Just so it looks like kind of there's a little bit of this transitioning cloud and fog at the base of the those objects. All right, looks like that. Looks pretty terrible, doesn't it? You have to think about it in context of the things that are going to be applied over the top of it. Okay, I'll try to make this go a little bit faster. I'll try to get more ink on my applicator, which, by the way, is 100% cotton ball. Okay, let me see, was I fairly consistent? Yeah. There might be some kind of transition issues over here after I stamp my imagery. Just in terms of it kind of looking smooth in here. I don't mind if it doesn't need to look smooth under the image, but where it comes out over here, if it kind of transitions a little bit more gracefully, that would be better. But I have my pastel pencil here, which has been working really fantastic for that purpose. And I think I could use that, where it's going to be easier than using something like this. This is really good for coverage. I won't, spend, forever with a pencil doing that, if it could even work, on doing this portion of it. It being the process. Okay, so that is a lot of white pigment ink application in here, white brilliance ink to be specific. And let's see, I missed a couple areas right around here. I can just fill that in a little bit. Now again, this dries really fast, okay? This mystic hidden house, you have to kind of get, it's this little notch right here, and this edge right here. That's the horizon line, so that's what you kind of want to line up, straight on the bottom here. It has this kind of area like this, so it's important that you don't stamp it like that. Otherwise it would, the house would be kind of tilted in. Let's see, so I'm getting it straight. I'm going to draw a line on the base of it, on the base of mine, going forward, I think, just so I can line it up the bottom of my block. Okay, that's going to go up about right here. Let's see. I'm not going to color this bottom portion right here because I think my snowy field is going to come across that. Okay, there we have our little house in there. Okay. I think I want to stamp this up a little bit higher than those last two. To give myself a little bit more of that snowy foreground. You can see how beautiful and fast these images really stamp out on this paper, or to be more specifically, I'm stamping on the white brilliance ink on top of that paper, so, or vinyl. And it really adheres very quickly. And if I didn't say it, I'm using the black brilliance. It can take other types of inks, though. I'm talking about this white pigment ink here. You just need to be safe about doing something like an oil-based pigment ink. It may or may not work, just depending on the brand of pigment and maybe the brand of paper. Because they're all probably a little bit different from one another in terms of the kind of the chemistry of it and the compatibility Okay, so this is going down at a slant right there. So, I mean, but you can do it at any angle that you want, okay? Okay, looks something like that. Right over here where I'm going over that, I think I might do up a little bit of a white block out on that, now that I have it positioned and I can see. Now this one, it's really low, so I'm really angling this over. I'm talking about my Mystic Hidden House stamped pretty low in the composition down here. All right, so now that I have my placement of the objects, I don't know if I really need to do this, but I think I'm going to do it anyways. But see where this slope overlap that image in the background? That image in the background really stands very forward. So the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back with my white, and I'll just do a little bit of a fill-in right over here, right over the top. My ink might not be completely dry in there, but it's dry enough to go over it with this. And it looks like that. You don't need to get rid of it all, but see this right here? I've just dabbed that right over it, so that dark ink from there isn't so pronounced right in here. And I'll do the same thing for right here on this one and this one. I don't think I need to do it on this one, because this one I stamped this really low here, so it didn't overlap too much. Now see, I'm doing this kind of, I don't know, it's not really in reverse. That's not really the description, but normally you would stamp this first and then mask it off and then stamp that behind it, okay? Which you certainly can do. But you don't really have to in this case if you don't want to, because you can always do this and create kind of opacity, you know, where it was, you know, see-through. And that's just through the use of this pigment ink. I mean, maybe it's not complete opacity. I can still see some of the, you know, the Mystic Hidden House portion right through this, but it's not too bad. All right, so it looks like that. Now we're going to use all colored pencil and everything, so if it looks a little bit kind of muddled or something like that, you don't worry about it, because we're going to use colored pencils, maybe the pastel pencil on it, and I don't know. Those types of things kind of remedy kind of unforeseen things or undesirable things that happen. I just see it as part of the process that, you know, I can fix later on very easily, so I'm not even worried about it. Okay, so I think I'm going to add in this foreground tree right in here. In here. Let's see. It's kind of big, but and pronounced. I'm not sure how much I should do. Maybe I'll bring it down like this. Okay. So let's see, it's going to be, I'll ink up on this side, which is the right side, but it's the left side if you're inking up here, because it's going to go like this. Okay, see how that really kind of frames things off really nicely like that. And then let's go for another one, kind of down below. So put something fairly large. It increases kind of depth and scale in here, and it also kind of frames off the scene. Now, don't stamp it over your house, because that house is going to be kind of the the focal point in here. But there you go. See that? Let's do the right side impressions first. One of the nice things about kind of working assembly line style. So you can just ink up the stamp, the same way every time you use it. Every time you use it for that, whatever, that impression purpose. And now let's do the other side. Now this one I'm inking up a little bit more than I think I'm going to need, because each one of these is a little bit different from one another. So I'm just kind of getting my bearings here. As far as kind of positioning goes, that really looks fun. I didn't know if I wanted to overlap that mountain too much, but I think it looks pretty good overlapped. Like that. It really brings the focal point, to that, our house right down there. So a lot of times when we stamp out our imagery over the top of some type of paper, foil, anything like that, a lot of times when we lift up, there's still quite a bit of ink left on the stamp, but on the printable vinyl, when you lift this up, it really removes or utilizes a large percentage of the ink that you've applied to your stamp. So I don't know if you can see it right here, but you can see that's where the ink is. But look at this. This is like really kind of, a lot of it has been removed on there. You can see it right down here. There's not a lot of ink left. See that? And pigment ink's some real thick ink too, so all right, let's see here. I'm kind of contemplating whether or not I want like some little image in here, like a elk or something like that, overlooking that lower area. Or I thought I also have the fishing boats that can go right in here. I think that might be kind of cool. Let me go see about that. Okay, we have our little small fishing boat here. I think this is fishing boat 2. All right, just make sure you have it kind of right side up. There's a reflection of the guy in the boat in this design, so it's easy to, it would be easy to, stamp it out upside down. Okay, see that right there? Looks like he's coming home after a day on the water. You know, when you're working on holographic cardstock, not the printable vinyl, okay, it's almost the polar opposite experience, because stamping on the printable vinyl with the Brilliance inks, it grabs and dries that ink really fast. Where on the holographic cardstock, you know, there's a chance of it slipping around like that because it's not absorbing and grabbing the ink like fast at all. It's doing it. It's not doing it at all, actually. You know, since those surfaces are non-porous. So just be aware of that if you're kind of switching up your media. Now, I like working on both the holographic cardstocks. This is a really dynamic surface like this, but in comparison to the holographic cardstocks, there's a lot more options out there in that type of incarnation. So you can get a lot of different looks from it, but you just change your technique a little bit. Okay, so let's start using some of, let's try the pastel pencil. You know what? So on the pastel pencil, I was thinking, well, we're going to have to kind of spray seal this, and the pastel pencil doesn't stick great, you know, to this type of paper, but it sticks enough. And I was thinking, well, you know, if you use this, we're going to have to spray seal it, but you have to spray seal pastels on any type of surface. So it's really no different. And when I started thinking about it, I was thinking, this pastel pencil kind of works okay on this type of paper, but not great. But that's the same thing on other types of smooth surface papers. You know, pastels don't have a lot to grip to, you know, without something being fairly textured. But, you know, when I thought about it, I thought, well, it works surprisingly, you know, well on this paper, considering, okay? Okay, so I'm adding some of this onto my mountain tops. Maybe where there wasn't some white pigment ink underneath the top of it. See this right here? So I'm able to kind of color that in a little bit where it was just starry, you know, textures showing through. And like I said, now see, I'm kind of coloring on this white pigment ink or on some of my mountains, so it's not applying great, okay? So don't expect it to. It's not going to apply great on there. It applies really good on just the bare kind of brilliance white, but in those kind of darker areas, you know, it'll be a little bit sketchy, but you can get a little bit on there, okay? And what I'm looking for is just to create a little bit of a opacity, just to block off some of the stars in my mountain range. See this right here? I added it like that. Now it's going to be a little bit different on all of them because, you know, I didn't get the same amount of coverage and application on all of these in the same areas, okay? So this right here, I'm kind of applying it into the lighter areas of the mountain. Over the top here, this one I didn't stamp out really super dark over here, so I'm just filling it in with some extra white. Okay, but see, that kind of stands out a little bit more. Here, I'll show you a little comparison between these two. This one right here, see these two mountains, how they compare like that with a little bit of that extra white on there? Okay, so kind of here like this. Kind of captures the moonlight a little bit more, like that. Okay. So I'm just addressing the mountains right now. Let's take a look at some of the snow down here. Okay, you can add it down here. Kind of grabs the lighting from the moon a little bit more, or reflects it, I should say. I don't know. I guess grab is okay in terms of a term or a description. I'm getting a little bit of a kind of a drag of some of that black pigment ink that's been applied. After all, it is completely surface oriented. So I'm dragging too much. I just stopped doing it. Now, I could probably wait for this to dry a little bit or heat set, but I'm not going to really bother to do that. I want these to be just nice and kind of non-fussy applications of things. And, if something's not coming out, perfectly, it's like, who cares, I'll just move on to the next step. Don't kind of force it. I'm saying if I'm dragging around, too much, too much black ink or something like that with this, then I'll just kind of move on. I won't work in that area anymore. And I think it looks fine as is, though. So it's just with the embellishments like this, it's like, okay, if you want to add some more, and if it looks good, then add more. If it, doesn't, then stop and just kind of move on to a different area. Trying to get a little highlighting on the rooftop of that little boat down there. Like that. This one's stamped out really light. Okay, now let's go in and let's add in some wintertime shading. Now, where we can apply just standard colored pencils, these are Prismacolors, so they're fairly soft, is we can apply it on the areas where we've applied the white brilliance ink. Now, on some of these areas, I've gone over it with the pastel pencils. So the pastel pencil is going to be a little bit, it'll be a little bit more dusty, so this might not apply, but I think we can get most of it down there. Okay, so where I'm applying some of this is I'm applying it kind of in the darker areas that, again, are on top of the white brilliance ink. And I'm doing it in the shadows. So see these shadow areas of the mountain? I'm applying it in there. Where the areas are lighter, it represents light hitting it, so I'm not doing so much of this in those areas, okay? But see how that starts to look? Just if you kind of just follow. Do this really lightly, too. I'm using a fairly light blue right here. We'll move up into a darker colored pencil, too. Darker blue. But look how great that mountain looks just with a little bit of tone like that. Now, see these textures down here in this snow pattern? Just apply it in the same areas that I have that darker tinge to it. Okay, it's still fairly light. It's not heavy use of those dots, but there you go, just like that. So it's just kind of following what I've already established. I mean, that's just a start. I mean, you can do other areas, but if you just kind of follow just the designs, it's really adequate. Okay, so that's my first color right here. We might go into it with a little bit of a darker blue, but that's going to be the majority of the color. Here it is used on the Snowy Brook right here. You see these two tones of blue. And it's not just specific tones, it's just a light blue and a darker blue right here. And it just happens to be the ones I grabbed. It's not like some kind of formula that I've discovered, oh, it has to be these two blues. Kind of go with a lighter blue and a darker one. Okay, so just, work the values of it. Now, I happen to like this blue a lot. aquamarine. It probably has a little bit of a warmth to it. See this? I'm just kind of following the darker areas of the design. You don't have to stay within the lines or anything like that. There are no lines. But it's just kind of a rough or suggested, coloring area. Okay, see that right there? Okay, let's see. What time is it? 11:28 and a half. Okay, let me see how long this one takes right here. I mean, we'll add some more coloring, but like I said, this is, going to be the majority of it, just than this one colored pencil. All right, 11:28 and a half. It's 11:29 and a half. So that took me 1 minute. Now, I've had practice from the previous 3, but, 1 minute for, I don't know, it's what's going to probably amount to, a large portion of the coloring process. Let me change my exposure a little bit. I have a lot of light reflecting off of this. Okay, so here's the darker blue. Now the darker blue, you stay even more in that darker area, and then you don't transition it too much, okay? I mean, you can if it's a different composition, but on here, I don't want too much of it. Now see that here's the moon over here. If you want to do something like on this side of the mountain, maybe it's a little bit lighter. On this side, it's a little bit darker, or something like that. Maybe just kind of test it out. Put a little bit of that darker blue down, and if you like it, then you can add more. But see, I'll just kind of go with a light touch of it at first. Okay. Oops, I didn't color this one with my light blue yet. But it only takes a minute though, right? create 4 fairly rendered pieces, all colored a little bit differently from one another, but I don't know, reasonably consistent, I guess. I mean, how can it not be? I'm doing them like one after another like that. Okay, so let's take and now on this one here, I didn't use too much black on this one right here because I wanted kind of a brighter, kind of lighting on it. But these ones right here feel kind of darker just in general. Maybe because of all the mountains and the heavy use of the the trees in here. So I'm just going to make things a touch darker in some areas, maybe on the opposite side of the mountains from the light. Maybe not too much on the snow, maybe a little bit. Normally I'd keep this a little bit lighter here, but I want it to create a little bit of contrast between that moon, or a little bit more contrast between that moon and the, I don't know, whatever the surrounding area around it. Let's see, I did it on one of these, but I'm going to add a little bit of more shadow down here for our boat. It makes it feel like the boat is kind of sitting in that location, and it's within the light of the lighting scheme here. All right, well, let's see. I think that looks pretty good. Let's get on with our paint pens, okay? We'll use both our 0.7 millimeter and our 3 millimeter. And I'm going to really bring out some highlighting in here. Okay. I might even do... I want to do a warm interior. Let's see if this one's going to be a little bit too... I think that'll be okay. I didn't know if I wanted to get... Well, let me do a test here since we do have so many different pens. This one's more like a canary yellow. I'm going to do a test here in my little house here. Yeah, I think it looks good. I'm going to create kind of some warm interior lighting. There's only like 2 little slits here in this house, but you can see it's like a kind of a warm light now within that space. It kind of merged. I was looking at it here. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of yellow in those stars too. So it's not kind of an isolated yellow, which would be cool too, but it kind of blends in thematically as well with that holographic starry pattern. Okay, So it goes like that. Anytime you have that kind of interior lighting in a situation, it kind of makes for a kind of a welcoming scene or object. Okay, so let's see here. What's that? A little bit of highlighting in the lighter areas of our mountain. I won't do too much, so if you retain some areas of light, I'm just kind of going into them and reiterating that. So like right up there, you see that? It's like right on the peaks, and it really stands out quite a bit, so I won't go too crazy with this. I just want it to kind of, I want it to enhance. I don't want it to, be too dominant of a visual. I think that looks really good on there. It's kind of minimal. See, it's just right on the tops of those peaks. Like, looks like surprisingly really three-dimensional. Okay, now seeing these areas of the snow here. Now, if you do this, if your pen starts clogging up, just get it kind of flowing again. It can kind of absorb or take in some of the colored pencil and pastel that we've laid down. So you just kind of have to twirl it and get it out of there. Now see this, there's this little area on the top of the boat. It has this, I don't know, whatever it is, this covered area. I'm going to bring that out a touch. Like that. And also on the top of that rooftop right in here, I'm going to kind of highlight that a little bit. I don't want it to stand out too much, so I'm going to be a little bit careful about that. Actually, I'll get kind of a couple areas of the rooftop right there. Okay, now see these trees in here? I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to do what I do on my autumn series. I'm going to kind of bring out some of these trunks a little bit. Don't do it like a straight line. Kind of have it broken up a little bit. But here's some a little bit lighter trunks in there. I think it looks okay. Maybe it doesn't need that. Okay, let's try to do this little assembly line style again, just so I don't forget some areas. I'll hit all three of like these rooftops at the same time. I'll hit some of this area down here on the snowy foreground. This. I'll get these other kind of caught up with the first one. All right, and let's get the rooftop here. And let's see, let's get the trees kind of moving from like the lower portion up, kind of. I won't put too much on these trees. I'll get it a little here and there. Okay, now I love it on these mountains especially. I'm kind of doing a real kind of sketchy application of this. A lot of times I don't do that. I'm going for like more kind of specific little dots, but I figured that this kind of sketchy applications it kind of goes along with the you know the contours of the design. And see, all these are a little bit different. So if I've colored in, a mountain area darker than another one, I might not color in that area quite so much. Like, see, this one's fairly light. This one over here is kind of dark, so I'm not putting too much of a highlighting area on that one. And on this one, I've left a little bit light over there. Okay. All right. Now, a little bit more here. Okay, now on this little shoreline right here, it's kind of a small kind of detail. But there's these little rocks down here, and I want to put some lighting on the tops of them, so just with a little bit like a dot or a little scribble on top of those rocks, we can make them look a little bit more illuminated. Okay, something like that. I don't know, maybe that's too much illumination. I'll use a little bit less. Okay. Now, one of the things I really like doing is adding in these little white blossoms like this onto the large winter ash. And it'll look like some blossoms in the moonlight too. Okay, so as I do this, I'm gonna kind of cluster these dots. Make sure you shake up your pen quite a bit. And just kind of let your eye be the judge of it. Kind of have to hold it out at arm's distance to take a look at how these little dots or blossoms are kind of affecting the overall appearance of the piece. If they're, you can just kind of add it fairly sparse at first, and then if you like it and want to go more, then add more. But kind of, apply it down to a certain degree and then take a look. And then, like I said, you can add more accordingly. It's kind of bringing the piece to life and adding a lot of dimension to it. I can see just almost immediately. Okay, so doesn't it look fairly three-dimensional? Kind of brings the tree out from the background. It is a foreground tree and it is dark, but it kind of separates it more now. Even though the blossoms are really the things that are really pulling it forward, we know that they're connected to the tree, so it's bringing like a black silhouette of a tree form really close to us. So I can even kind of do it around this little fisherman and the dots, you know, or around the house, and it kind of frames off the house a little bit. Okay. Checking it out for kind of balance and evenness. And also trying to assess if I need anything additional on these. I think I could use a little bit of, let's see, do I have pink? One of these, I think this pink here, it's not real super pink, so yeah, okay, maybe this, it was maybe another one. There was some like a magenta color that I had that's not, that's a little bit transparent. I'm gonna put a little pink up here. Let's see how it looks. Could look like cherry blossoms or something like that with a little bit of a tinge of pink like that. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'll keep it kind of minimal though, because I really like the white look. Okay. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a kind of a tinge of, or hint of that color. I kind of like the spirit of it too. It's not an isolated because that pink is in that holographic patterning to it, but I think it looks pretty cool. All right. I think I might do one final little touch on this as well. I don't know if it'll apply. As I was doing this on some of these, it did seem like it was applying, the black showing through it quite a bit. But when I went over a couple areas with some additional white ink, it didn't seem like it was applying to very opaque at all. I mean, it's always translucent, but it seemed like even less so. Okay, so right down here, I'm kind of just pushing the mountain back a little bit with a little bit of extra kind of cloud. So I'm going like right in here. So it's a little bit of this kind of cloudy. I don't want to go over here because, the tree is here, but right in that area, just a touch. And maybe kind of around in here just a little bit. It's like a little bit of a kind of atmospheric fog or something. Yeah, and just, I don't know, it's kind of a softer variation. A little bit of variation down at the bottom of all these. Okay, but I think that should do it. Let's see. 4 cards. Mass produced. I don't know if you consider like four pieces, 4 similar pieces mass production. Some of you make 20, 30 of the holiday cards or something like that. So this is like, for me, it's mass production, but a pretty painless mass production in terms of quantity. Okay, so anyways, 1 hour and 10 minutes. So that's about 15, 16, 17 minutes per card. That's not too bad, I think. 17, or is it 18 minutes? All right, so I'm looking at these. A little bit of variation from piece to piece, I'd say. Here's a little tweak here. Let's make that little boat stand out a little bit more. I need to put a little bit more of a kind of a shadow shoreline right here. Okay. Oh, where's my blue? Or lighter blue, I should say. Yeah, that makes the kind of that shoreline stand out, and shoreline and this, the snowy bank here, foreground, a little bit more prominent. Maybe a little bit too strong of a blue. I'll use some of the black in here as well. The black will just kind of mellow things out. It won't, the blues won't look as bright, so there'll be a little bit more of a dull blue. Okay, so right in here, right along the shoreline. The shoreline too, that looks pretty good. It kind of anchors down the hidden house imagery. Yeah, that looks really good. Right along that shoreline like that. So adding a little bit of time onto the average, time it took to do the card, but this is a fun little kind of detail on here, and it's really making the that imagery really stand out so much more prominently. Prominently, but kind of in a subtle way too. Yeah, that looks so much better now. It separated it from the foreground so much better. Yeah, it really sits in there. Here, if you like it, then go more. If it's kind of accomplishing something that you wanted it to accomplish. On here, I kind of colored in too many of those rocks, so I'll tint them out a little bit. Okay, there we go. That is more like it. Our mystic hidden house. Something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I wasn't necessarily thinking in terms of the holographic printable vinyl for this composition right here, but I really wanted that hidden house kind of into kind of a moonlit kind of scenario, and wasn't exactly what I envisioned, but I don't know, I just came up with a composition like just on the fly here right before I started the video. But yeah, look at that little bit of that shading right around the shoreline there. I think it really helped out, kind of the distant shoreline there. And it gave it so much more dimension. All right, so anyway, 1 hour 16, so 15, 19 minutes per card. Hope you like them. Hope you like the composition. My overall thoughts on this was that I'm getting more free with my application of this pen here, but I really like the look of it on these mounts right there. And they're all a little bit different. See, on some of it has that little tip there. This one here, it's lighter to begin with. But the tree and the foreground really kind of, it framed everything off, and it really anchored this side of the scene right here. And then I really like this hidden house in here, like so. Look at this one's much higher up there, and this one's much lower, like this. Kind of, the tree almost kind of obscures that little boat down there, but I don't know. Fun stuff. Hope you enjoyed it again. Thanks so much for checking it out. And thanks as always for tuning into the Stampscapes channel. And if you like these videos, hope you hit the like button and think about subscribing if you haven't already for some future fun stuff. And you can hit the notifications bell anytime I upload something or I go on live. You'll get a little notification of it.